This is The Sit Down, and I'm here with actor Sasha Pieterse, star of Pretty Little Liars, and its upcoming spinoff, The Perfectionists. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
I know this is a busy couple of days for you with the premiere of the show, all of that good stuff. And this weekend, I actually tweeted out asking your fans if they had any questions, and I was overwhelmed with the amount of responses that I got back.
That's awesome. I can't wait to hear it.
Well, we can jump in with one of those questions. And this one is from Mara Bowen, who says, what was your reaction when you found out about coming back as Alison in The Perfectionists?
Mara, that's a really cool name. I was beyond excited. I actually found out that Marlene wanted to do this around season 6. So it was before we even finished the show. And of course I said yes, because I love playing Alison. I didn't even really have to think about it. So I was really excited to see the way that she was going to basically create this new world. Sarah Shepard also wrote The Perfectionists, and it had nothing to do with Pretty Little Liars. So they kind of made this amazing blend. And Beacon Heights is a really intense, dark, interesting world. It's a crazy new town, and I think the fans are going to love it. Yeah.
Well, you mentioned it's dark. It's hard to imagine that it could get
darker
more
than
twisted.
Rosewood.
But, you know, we went from playing this character as a teenager, and now she's a bit more grown up. How does that make a difference?
I just feel like this is a more elevated Pretty Little Liars, and I don't mean it in quality. I more so mean that this is now an older side of Alison. But I feel like a lot of our fans have grown with us. So if you've watched Pretty Little Liars, this is just almost like a continuation, but not redundant. It's a darker world. I mean, Beacon Heights is supposed to be perfect. It's supposed to be this perfect little place, and it's really not. It's really, really, really not. It has the first murder, and it's just very cool to see Alison kind of grow up and experience all these new layers. She's a wife, she's a mom, and she's just trying to make it through.
Just trying to make it through.
Just trying to get by.
Well, speaking of, Andrea tweeted, does Alison keep in touch with the other girls? Is there a possibility of guest starring roles or phone calls from her friends?
Absolutely. Definitely phone calls. And yes, she's very connected to them. And I think Marlene would love, if we have a season 2, to bring on the girls. At least, especially to direct. I think Ashley's going to direct an episode. I hope Troyan will. So they're very much involved and also very supportive. I mean, they're family.
Well, one of the things you mentioned is Alison is a wife and she's a mom.
Yeah.
But we haven't seen Emily. So what's going on there? I know that some of the media picked up on this a little bit.
Yes.
People are curious.
I know, and Emison lives on. It's one of Marlene's favorite relationships. She takes care of it really, really well. And I think that this is difficult. One of the things that Marlene said, which I really, really believe, is that, you know, the dust has settled and A is not around anymore. And I've kind of felt like, how crazy would it be if you had experienced this in real life? You know, they're adults now. All of this has happened to them, all this craziness. Now it's not there. And you have to kind of pick up the pieces and figure out what it's like to be an adult. On top of it, Alison didn't really choose to have kids. I think she is incredibly in love with her kids. But at the same time, that's kind of a traumatic experience to kind of have something just like, by the way, you're pregnant. You know?
Folks can read up on how that ended. Go back and rewatch
exactly.
that kind of thing.
Explore the way that happened. So there's a lot of trauma there, and I think she's just trying to prove to Emily that she can be a better person. Her reason for going to Beacon Heights is to get her degree so that she can become a professor at Hollis. And so she can go back to Rosewood and be a better mom and a better wife. So those are her intentions, however. Doesn't always happen that way.
Plans.
Exactly.
Yes, exactly.
Intentions and reality are two different things.
Well, you mentioned Emison, and as an LGBTQ woman myself, you know, we are so devoted when we see ourselves represented on screen because, you know, it can be really rare. And I know that people have shipped Emison. They've done all that stuff. Were you aware of that kind of fandom world before?
Yes. And I mean that in such a good way. I mean, everyone was so passionate about it, and I totally see why. And that's why, it's one of the reasons why I love Marlene and her writing, because she really, as an LGBTQ herself, she really understands that world, and she really wanted to take care of that and make sure that she did it justice. And I think from her own experiences, but also for the fans and paying attention to the way they reacted to Emily and then reacted to Alison, she wanted to really just make it realistic as well. We live in such a crazy society, but also Pretty Little Liars is such a heightened reality. And I think she's kind of found that balance. And fear not, you know, she's really made sure that she has us in her hands and knows what's best.
Yeah. Well, you say fear not about that aspect, but something you else have said is that The Perfectionist is scary because of the surveillance aspect of it and the very online world that we live in. So how is that going to play out?
Yeah. I think one of the things that is so appealing about The Perfectionist is that it's very much kind of what we're dealing with today. It's kind of like that big brother who's watching us from our phones and our laptops, and why are they listening in? Instagram pops up ads when you've been talking about something. I mean, it's just crazy, and we don't really know, I think, to what extent we're being watched. And Beacon Heights is kind of the ultimate world of creepy surveillance, and it's supposedly to protect you and to keep you safe. There's a lot of darkness in there, and you're not sure what the motive is behind it, and you start to find out how ugly and dark that world can be.
Well, speaking of always feeling watched, you have been in the spotlight for a long time.
Yeah.
And on a personal note, you've been really candid about your experiences with bullying and body shaming and that kind of thing. Do you feel like just now that we're in this new age of Time's Up and we're really talking about these things in a more overt and open way, do you feel like that's shifting at all?
I think it is. I think the best part is that the conversation is there. We have a platform to talk about it. And I'm lucky to be in that position where I can really kind of be open and candid, like you said, about what I'm going through in order to hopefully help other people that are dealing with the same thing. It's really difficult. And at the same time, I signed up for it. It's not the part that I wanted, but that's what comes with my industry. It just kind of is what it is. And so I'm just trying to make the best of it. And with my condition, PCOS, it's incredible how many people have the same thing and are dealing with it, or are finding out that they have it and are working on getting better. And it's a constant process, and it'll be forever with me. I have to balance it constantly. But I'm not alone, and I've always just wanted to make sure that other girls know that they're not alone either. We're all in this together. And my plan is just to help people be positive and motivated, and always continue to be in that direction instead of focusing on the negative.
Very cool. Well, you mentioned that the industry is changing, but you are also branching out a little bit beyond this industry. You have a cookbook coming out.
I'm so excited.
Yeah, so how did you get into cooking?
I've always loved it. I've always just loved the foodie world in general. But my papa used to cook by taste, and that's kind of where I got that from. So I kind of taught myself, actually, and there's just a lot of fun in that, and it's rewarding to kind of create something that's yours. And so I've been putting together recipes for so long. The book is basically a 5-year process of mine. Wow. So I'm actually just about to get my copy. I just can't wait to see it in person and kind of flip through the pages, but it'll be coming out later this year, and I'm so excited for people to see it.
Oh, very cool, very cool. Well, listen, thank you for taking the time to join me.
Of course, thanks for having me.
And The Perfectionist premieres March 20th on Freeform. And up next, we are talking about Shrill. Another show. Yeah,
thank you.